nueva estrella fugaz que dibuje en el cielo un corazón latino. Pues agárrame, mi hermoso premio.
As artists, we were invited on the 10th week, and what we decided to do is to map out this no debt is an island, to identify artists, students, Abu Dhabi, the workers where they come from in their homeland, and try to see not just actions, but how to see how our struggles are connected, and how our liberation is either collective or non-existent. And within that, what is the role of art? And this is an example both of intersectionality, but also solidarity. Solidarity is a choice. It's hard. You make them. Right? And I want you to think of decolonize again, not as a metaphor. There's two ways to think about this moment. One of them is social justice, and it gets bundled up all together, right? That's not a framework. It's not a framework. We need to recognize all the struggles, beginning with the fact that we're in occupied land. It's only through that, the idea of property being stolen, then internal and external colonization, they call it gentrification, they call it low wages, they call it this and that, but it's all related. The war in Yemen produces immigrants or asylum seekers that come over here, right? And everyone at different levels need to oppress someone below them, right? And they're oppressed from above. And maybe a few of us will win the lottery and you can end up like Obama. We had free screenings. The screenings, everything we were doing in the space was in relation to 5 things. Indigenous struggle, Black liberation, free Palestine, de-gentrification, global wage growth. So we brought it all together, right? And we said, how can they interrelate? How can new formations come out of the space? Now, how can we write a manifesto? Right? But how can our relationships actually evolve from these conversations? I started by saying that MTL presentation with Natasha Dinloon is about art and the practice of freedom. So think about the artist as organisms. Research and theory, action and aesthetics, debriefing and analysis. This entire dialectical process is the practice. And that's what we imagine movement-generated art is. is, and that's what we imagine training in the practice of freedom to look like.
Y por eso nosotros hemos hecho un llamado, como hacemos un evento, una campaña que se llamaba Todos somos Shuar, para poder reunificar a toda la hermandad de diferentes nacionalidades, no solamente la nacionalidad Shuar, sino de diferentes nacionalidades, diferentes culturas, para poder, ese momento ha llegado, va llegando y va acercando el momento de reunificarnos de todas las nacionalidades indígenas, Ecuador, Colombia, Perú, Brasil, México, Guatemala y aquí mismo en Norteamérica, los hermanos de aquí de este país, los hermanos indígenas. Por eso hemos hecho llamado para poder ya reunificarnos y a compartir nuestros sentimientos y a ponernos a defender lo que son nuestros derechos.
And that's why we have begun the campaign Todos Somos Shuar, we are all Shuar, to invite the different struggles and the different people to learn about each other, to come together for this great struggle. The time has come, or is arriving, has arrived for indigenous people from all over the continent, from Colombia, from South America, Central America, to North America, and all over the world, to stand together and defend what's real.
Y también de antemano los invito a reunificarnos, defender lo que es el derecho a la vida de la humanidad, que es la naturaleza del mundo entero.
So I invite all of you here, everyone that's present, to find each other, to find us, to find healing. We know that global warming is a real threat and is something that is affecting everyone. And indigenous people are here to guide everyone back to nature. And there's a call for each one of you and each one of us to come together and defend Mother Earth and the biodiversity that indigenous people have watched over.
As an organizer, I can't call myself an organizer and not see the different levels of oppression and how we're all connected through oppression and through this system, right? It's systematic. We don't wake up and are not born ready to oppress and try to destroy each other. We're taught that type of attitude, language, and practice. And I think capitalism does a very, very good job at dividing us and trying to keep us into these boxes where we can't even organize and fight together, right? Or how we do it. There are people in the room who, or anywhere, who might consider themselves academic, and then people in the street might say, I don't want to work with an academic because of those prejudices that are put into these institutions that we are in. And Asada Shakur, who is in exile in Cuba, who was a Black Panther, says, theory without action is deceit. I cannot not claim intersectionality in the work, and again, call myself a fighter. Like, I'm a Haitian woman, the people that were there with before Africans were taken and used as capital for French labor were the Taino people. I can't mistake that. Or the fact that as a woman who fights for police brutality, in Albuquerque, indigenous people are getting murdered by police every day, just like every 20 hours a Black and brown person is murdered by NEPD or vigilante within this country. There's a connection. There are points of unity that all of us can stand with and for. And I think sometimes within activism, people fear the word feminism. But if you're a feminist, you understand that women's oppression is tied to all people's liberation. And I think that's where we have to come into the work. We're not as different as the system wants us to think we are. And to defeat this system, we have to come together to do it.
Concepts is really not about authority, right? It's about experience. But one thing I can say, and I can refer people to a very important article, is that just look at the United States, right? One way to think about intersectionality is, it's a big word, but we need to kind of break it down. What are we trying to do? We're trying to live our lives. We're trying to be free. We're trying to have the choice to not oppress each other. We're trying, patriarchy exists because we practice it every day. People are getting killed because we choose to consent to the system every day. We fight little struggles but then we put the blinders on and don't see how we're participating with everything else. And it's overwhelming, right? But then you gotta say, well, I need to take a risk because I'm getting killed by it anyway, right? I mean, I am participating in other people's death and my own. And it looks different for all of us, you know? It could be a dream that you never fulfill. It could be going to prison. It could be your family being sent back. It could be the Amazon non-existent, people that we're learning about over here, but also in relation to our existence, right? So that is existing right now, and people are struggling. People are struggling and resisting power, but then the question is, how are we resisting and struggling effectively, right? Intersectionality doesn't give us that. Intersectionality just tells us we're all connected and we need to work together. Right? What gives us that? And I think that it begins by the fact that in the United States, and that's what I'm familiar with, in the United States and Palestine, but in the United States, this is a settler colonial nation. Settler colonialism is a process, not an event. It continues. It's still going on. There are people in reservations. There are people getting murdered. There is wealth being extracted. There's a pipeline that's passing through. And you can say that's not happening here, right? But in fact, the creation of settler colonialism was about property. So we can all have a conversation about capitalism and what it means and how it looks like and how it was changed by neoliberalism, and no one will agree because we don't understand what's happening. But the thing that we can say is that here's a settler colonial nation that was created by the theft of land and a killing of a way of life. So a new set of social relations got introduced. Then what else happened? Then we operate like an empire. Who can deny that we are an empire? We, all of us, are responsible for this empire, right? That was built on the backs of slaves. So we have stolen land, we have slaves. Slavery didn't end, right? Because people still live in ghettos, people still live in. These consequences of material property and wealth that was transferred is things that we're living now. Right? Then what else happened? Then we're having all these wars elsewhere for corporations. The Amazon's being taken for who? Not for you, but in the name of national interest or national security or national I don't know what, or we know better, right? Then there's internal colonization. So we're a settler colonial nation operating like an empire with external colonization all over the world, and then internal colonization, like how? Like taking the Bronx right now. By who? By all of us. Why? Because we're getting kicked out of Bushwick. Why? Because we came from somewhere else. And you're wondering, what do I do? What do I do? I gotta live, I gotta eat, I can't be homeless, I'm gonna get a job, I'm gonna take out debt, I'm gonna do this. We're all complicit. So once we begin to paint that picture and we support each other through love and healing in that process, then at least we got a picture. We're all doing this to each other. Where's the power? How do I resist it? And the truth is, you resist it where you are. Just right now, there's this table, people with knowledge, and people receiving. How do we change it? Right? And we are always thinking it's outside. We always think it's somewhere else. That's, for me, is what I'm learning all the time. It's just like, I'm always looking somewhere else. How is it happening over here? The sexism, patriarchy, all of these are walls. These are walls in which we participate in hurting each other. Right? And someone else is benefiting. Because it ain't the person that's being sexist who's benefiting from it, even though that's a power relation, right?
Sort of throw in some Spanish because that's just how I talk about these things. And something that you learn from our indigenous communities when I think of intersectionality, el concepto, is el concepto de rendición de cuentas, which is checks and balances. It's something that should be profound, not just a term, a quote-unquote academic term that institutions are starting to use, like they've used many other colonized terms to describe phenomenals. It could turn into that, right? But it could also become, or if you really take it in as a concept of checks and balances, of accountability, of acknowledging our differences, to find common ground and to be better allies and to be humble and to listen to each other. because we can talk political ideology, we can talk about imperialism and socialism and different political parties and other concepts that are coming out of more progressive academia. But like my brother said, if there's not that healing, that love, honesty, and embracing that discomfort, there's not going to be a lot of true transformation, and right? So the change has to be profound, and we need to start dreaming and imagining together and learning from each other. And I think the indigenous communities and communities of color who've been doing this, who've been resisting. El sabor cambió un poquito porque it's Trump, but it's been the same all this time. Patriarchy, imperialism, right? It has a little bit of an alt-right flavor now, a little bit more loud. So I think that this is an important time for everyone around the world to really connect y transformar en un modo internacionalista. And it wasn't strange during like the height of like political struggle in this country for artists to work with the activists. That just went hand in hand. Like Dick Gregory opened up for Malcolm X. You know, those are things that we're not taught. Or like Basquiat's work and Citadel and what that meant for Black and Afro-Latino struggle and history. They always have coincided. And artists are some of the things that we use at our events, whether it be artists who sang, whether it be artists that created pieces that we can show about police brutality struggle, or artists that took photography that were shown all over the media. We use every tactic and every medium possible because this system uses every medium possible to control us and make us think that we can't fight. I think with the work, that's like the mindset that we have to take up. Like Daisy was talking about using your imagination. It is limitless what we can do in struggle, because we can do it all. If they can do everything to oppress us, we can do everything to liberate ourselves. This indigenous brother said that at least Black people are lucky that they had slavery, right? And the thing is, it made me think about how colonialism works within our minds and how we can hate each other and do the work of the oppressors. And so that's why I bring up the context of using tactics. We have to decolonize our minds. That's a constant struggle. And within this work, within the Kai Greatly campaign, that is one of the things that I really took seriously, because even within my community, there were people who were okay with a Kai being murdered. And there's a backwardness there that white supremacy has played its hand in that we have to work to break apart. And that's within all our communities.
Founding this project was a way to tackle issues that were directly affecting the community, but nobody was talking about it. For example, the lack of interpreters in the court systems, in schools, in hospitals, for indigenous communities, for Quechua speakers, for Quiche speakers, for a lot of these indigenous communities in New York City, these languages just aren't recognized. You know? And that's when I started really trying to identify pockets of the Quechua community in the Bronx, and we thought of community radio as a tool to organize the community. And that's what it was. I mean, the program, since its founding in 2014 till now, has revolved a lot around not only language preservation, but also issues that really directly affect our community, like social issues, cultural issues, loss of identity, loss of language, also documentation, because a large percentage of the indigenous communities that live here aren't documented. They don't have citizenship, they don't have working papers. And that's a real problem. So how do we present what's already being disseminated by popular channels like Univision, Telemundo, and ground it back down to the community? Talking about deportations, for example, talking about emergency preparedness over the radio, but in your language, so that you can also access this information. You can also feel comfortable that this is a space that's basically catered to you.
For me, after 10 years of organizing and being an artist, for me, I've decided and made a commitment in my own life to whatever I do, there has to be art and healing, because that's the ultimate signifier of civilization. That's the kind of future and present that we need to live in today. We need to have access to good food, we have to have access to community, that what we create is not destructive. That where we bring in our young people is not destructive, that we're not perpetuating the pedophilia, the misogyny, the abuse, assault that we have generational trauma from. Our ancestors were raped, violated, murdered, and we carry that in our DNA. And so that for me, that's part of intersectionality. That's part of my artwork. I become so much more conscious of my words, because words have the power to manifest. So I won't even say certain names or certain words, because that vibration will reproduce itself. And so I invite like my friends and the people that I work with to be part of healing. And I'm so blessed and honored to have a teacher like Lino who has really taught me like what it is to be like a good man, a good father, a good community member, a healer, so kind, and the medicine of Indigenous people. And so I've really gravitated towards that to heal myself and to reproduce and create space to share that with my community, to heal, to be a translator and a bridge for these different worlds.
I always say that the revolution begins in our bodies, and how we take care of our own body and our health is also a reflection of how we take care of Mother Earth. So we have to take care of Mother Earth, we have to take care of ourselves, and be conscious and be very intentional. And when we start tuning things together and sharing as a community and building collectively, creating as a community, dancing together, painting together, improvising and flowing together, magic happens. It's something that's very organic when you really learn to trust each other, and it's something that's very intimate. As a danzante and in many indigenous danza practices, we dance around the abuelos. The drum is our abuelo, our grandparents, our ancestors, the trees. And we sweat together, right? So it's like this concept of you fight together, you heal together. You have to combine that so that our movements can be sustainable.
So I think when I think of intersectionality in art and just kind of like my own queer identity, I do have to kind of look to these modes of navigating space in the way that we've been forced to learn how to navigate space. It's being able to just in Chicano studies we talk about Nepantla, right? Like Nepantla being this border space, right? Like this in-between space where where I'm ni de aquí ni de allá, right? Like I'm neither from here nor from there. And so ultimately, like Western institutions of art is what I've been taught, so it's like, well, how do we dismantle these things from the inside? And it's not about dismantling, it's about existing within, right? My existence, anywhere is resistance. I'm queer, I'm brown, I'm big. None of these things I can change or help, and I don't want to, but I do, I feel like I've spent so much time like just having to like explain and justify all of these like facets of my identity. And this work, this concientización, right? Like this consciousness, this work that we're talking about, decolonization, for both POC and for non-POC folks, white folks, like it's emotional labor. You have to chip away at all of these things about yourself, these things that you've been taught were the right way to exist.
Where our art needs to be, that there are no other places that our art can exist and be seen and be respected if they're not in those spaces. And that's why we have to control the narrative. I think, for one, us here, I guess we're comrades now because we're on the panel together, we're working together right now. But we do have different ideology and different things of how we look at art and how we look at liberation. And that's okay, because we're allied right now, so we're good. And the reason why I bring that up is because right now it's cool to be an activist. The best thing you could be right now is an activist, to the point that they are taking images that have been used for struggle forever to be put on Chipotle bags and coffee mugs and nice t-shirts that cost $500, right? Even though struggle has always existed, and it feels up to this system, struggle would seem like it never existed because this country is so amazing and so great, right? And I think through the work that we do, and however you do it, like if you paint for our people, and if all it is putting it on the side of a wall and having somebody take a picture of it and share it on their social media, and that message reaches our people, that's the work. That's struggle. And I think that it's not taught that way. That if it's not critiqued in the Wall Street Journal, it's not good enough. And it goes the same with what's going on in our communities. If it's not seen on the front page, it's non-existent. That all these incidents are isolated, right? That this young white man could rape women and get 5 months, because that doesn't happen, as if there's no rape culture in our schools and our institutions, right? Or that, oh my God, Eric Garner, but what about these brothers and sisters who were being choked by the NYPD before his case was put on a cell phone and put on YouTube? I think it's very, very important for us not to forget that it's our duty to share this stuff. Because if we don't share the truth, they're gonna share their lies, right? Malcolm X said that this system will have you loving the oppressed and hating the oppressed. And if we don't use what we have and get it out, we're doing a great injustice to our people and to the struggle. And I think that that's why these spaces are important. I don't care where a space is. We can go on the sidewalk right now. I don't care. It's great that we have this large space that Alejandro has provided us, but anywhere can be a stage for struggle and for art. And white supremacy doesn't get to define our art, because they called it primitive when it was on our walls, and they take a picture and they frame it, and it's art put in spaces that we can't even touch. That's what Amin was talking about. When he was saying you can't even touch the wall, that's what he was talking about. Our creativity isn't for sale because struggle isn't for sale. But they try to make it seem like it is. Like all we amount to is dollar signs, because that's how they view us. And I think that we're doing great things because we're claiming ourselves.
I'm working with institutions because institutions take up so much space as it is. Like they're all over the place, you know, and quite frankly, our communities, for our communities, that's all they know. They know institutions from their own countries, institutions here, and frankly, a lot of institutions are exactly. So they also cross borders, you know. They're free to cross borders, you know. The Guggenheim is free to cross borders into Abu Dhabi, you know, but people aren't. So how do we take up spaces? How do we make the institutions work for us? So they're doing work at our command, you know. So that's why it's important to insert ourselves, to really make institutions feel stupid, because they're calling us radical because we're creating Quechua radio program or Quechua programming, but that should be the norm. There really shouldn't be anything radical, you know. So that's why that's why it's important to work in institutions, because we need them to realize that we're here, you know, we're not going anywhere, we haven't gone anywhere, you know, they could put us in a frame as much as they want, but we've been here and we're going to continue being here.